There's a voice inside you that speaks faster than thought, clearer than logic, and more accurately than any algorithm ever created. It whispers the answer before you've fully formed the question. It knows which path to take before you've mapped the territory. It recognizes truth before your mind has processed the data. Scientists call it intuition. Mystics call it inner knowing. Quantum physicists call it non-local information access. But regardless of the label, this invisible guidance system operates on principles that blur the line between science and miracle. Dr. Judith Orloff, a psychiatrist who bridges conventional medicine with intuitive healing, documented thousands of cases where patients' gut instincts predicted medical outcomes with startling precision. Mothers who knew something was wrong with their children before any symptoms appeared. Business leaders who avoided catastrophic deals based on nothing more than an uneasy feeling. Emergency room doctors who prioritized patients not by visible symptoms, but by an inexplicable sense of urgency and saved lives because of it. But here's what conventional science missed for decades. Intuition isn't just lucky guessing or pattern recognition. Recent discoveries in quantum biology suggest our brains might be quantum computers, capable of processing information that exists in superposition multiple states simultaneously before it collapses into linear reality. Your intuitive flashes aren't random. They're quantum downloads from a field of infinite intelligence that your conscious mind hasn't learned to decode yet. Most people experience these moments but dismiss them within seconds. A fleeting image, a sudden knowing, an unexplained attraction or aversion to something. The tragedy? They override these quantum whispers with mental noise, cultural conditioning, and the desperate need to have logical reasons for everything. They turn down the volume on the most sophisticated guidance system in the universe because it doesn't come with a Harvard MBA or a peer-reviewed study attached. If you're ready to unlock your quantum intuition and learn how to decode these mysterious inner signals, type 777 in the comments below. This isn't just engagement. It's your declaration that you're ready to trust the intelligence that operates beyond your thinking mind. But what if you could amplify this signal? What if you could learn to distinguish between genuine intuitive guidance and the echoes of fear, conditioning, and wishful thinking? What if your inner compass became so clear, so reliable, that decision-making transformed from agonizing deliberation into effortless knowing? The quantum field that surrounds and interpenetrates everything, including your brain, contains information that transcends the limitations of space and time. Your intuition is your biological interface with this field. It's not magic. It's physics we're only beginning to understand. In this exploration, we'll decode the science behind your inner knowing, reveal why most people's intuitive abilities remain dormant, and provide you with a systematic approach to awakening and trusting your quantum guidance system. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll understand exactly how to tune into frequencies of wisdom that most people never access. When physicist Niels Bohr won the Nobel Prize for his work on atomic structure, he made a statement that puzzled many of his colleagues. The opposite of a profound truth may well be another profound truth. He was pointing to something quantum mechanics had revealed. Reality operates on principles that defy ordinary logic. Your intuition works the same way. It doesn't follow linear reasoning. It doesn't need step-by-step evidence. It arrives at accurate conclusions through pathways that bypass the analytical mind entirely. This isn't a bug in your mental software. It's a feature that connects you directly to quantum intelligence. Dr. Antonio Damasio, a renowned neuroscientist at USC, discovered that people with damage to the emotional centers of their brains, the areas where intuitive feelings arise, could still reason logically but became terrible decision makers. They could analyze pros and cons endlessly but couldn't feel their way to the right choice. His research suggested that intuition isn't the opposite of rational thinking. It's an advanced form of information processing that integrates vast amounts of data in milliseconds. The quantum connection goes deeper. At the subatomic level, particles exist in states of superposition until they're observed. Some physicists theorize that consciousness itself might operate quantum mechanically, processing multiple potential realities simultaneously before collapsing them into singular experiences. Your intuitive hunches might be moments when your consciousness briefly accesses these superposed states, getting a glimpse of multiple timelines before reality crystallizes into one. This would explain why intuitive insights often feel like remembering the future or knowing something you've never learned. Consider remote viewing, a phenomenon studied extensively by Stanford Research Institute for the CIA. Participants consistently demonstrated the ability to describe distant locations they'd never seen, often with remarkable accuracy. The researchers couldn't explain how information traveled from the target location to the viewer's mind, but the results were undeniably real. Quantum entanglement offers a potential mechanism. If consciousness can somehow become entangled with distant systems, people, places, situations, then information could be transmitted instantaneously across any distance. Your gut feelings about people you've just met might be quantum information exchanges happening below the threshold of conscious awareness. This isn't just theoretical. Dr. Dean Radin at the Institute of Noetic Sciences has documented thousands of cases where people's physiological responses, heart rate, skin conductance, brain waves change seconds before being shown emotionally disturbing images. Their bodies knew what was coming before their eyes saw it. The future was somehow influencing the present. But here's where most people get stuck. They experience these quantum flashes, but immediately doubt them. The rational mind, trained to trust only what it can verify and control, dismisses anything that doesn't fit its narrow bandwidth of acceptable reality. The result? You second-guess your first instincts, override your inner knowing with external opinions, and gradually tune out the very guidance system that could navigate you through life with unprecedented clarity and grace. But what if you could recalibrate? What if you could learn to distinguish between genuine quantum intuition and the mental static that masquerades as inner guidance? What if you could develop such trust in your inner compass that you rarely made decisions that felt wrong later? The ancient traditions knew something modern science is rediscovering. There's an intelligence within you that operates beyond the limitations of linear thinking. The Vedic texts called it prajna, discriminating wisdom. Buddhist teachings refer to it as rigpa, pure awareness that knows without needing to think. These weren't metaphorical concepts. They were practical technologies for accessing quantum intelligence through consciousness itself. And now, with our understanding of quantum mechanics and neuroscience, we can bridge these ancient wisdoms with modern scientific frameworks. Your brain receives approximately 11 million bits of information per second through your sensory organs, but your conscious mind can only process about 40 bits. Where does the rest go? It gets processed unconsciously. creating the substrate for what we call intuitive knowing. But it's more than just subconscious pattern recognition. Quantum biology research suggests that certain structures in your brain, microtubules within neurons, might operate as quantum computers, processing information in superposition states before collapsing into conscious thoughts and feelings. This means your intuitive flashes might be your brain's way of communicating quantum computational results to your conscious awareness. The gut feeling about a business decision could be your neural quantum computer processing thousands of variables and probability matrices in milliseconds, then delivering the result as a simple yes or no sensation in your body. The implications are staggering. If you could learn to trust and interpret these quantum downloads, you wouldn't need to laboriously analyze every decision. You wouldn't need to poll friends and family for their opinions. You wouldn't need to agonize over choices that your deeper intelligence has already solved. But accessing this level of inner clarity requires something most people struggle with: the willingness to trust wisdom that doesn't come with explanations. Quantum intuition speaks in feelings, images, sudden knowings, and bodily sensations. It doesn't provide PowerPoint presentations or logical justifications. This is why developing quantum intuition is as much about unlearning as it is about learning. You have to unlearn the need to understand everything intellectually before you act. You have to unlearn the belief that if you can't explain something, it isn't valid. You have to unlearn the habit of seeking external validation for internal knowing. What remains after this unlearning is remarkable. A guidance system so sophisticated, so connected to quantum intelligence, that it can navigate complexity with simplicity, uncertainty with confidence, and chaos with grace. In the next section, we'll explore the specific interference patterns that block most people's access to quantum intuition, and how to clear them so your inner guidance becomes as clear and reliable as your physical senses. The tragedy of human potential isn't that we lack access to quantum guidance. It's that we've been trained to ignore it. From childhood, we're taught to trust authority over authenticity, expertise over experience, and external validation over internal knowing. School systems reward analytical thinking and penalize intuitive leaps. Corporate cultures demand data-driven decisions and dismiss gut instincts as unprofessional. Social media feeds us constant streams of other people's opinions, drowning out the quiet voice of our own wisdom. The result? Most adults have learned to dismiss their first impressions, second-guess their initial responses, and seek consensus before trusting their own guidance. They've effectively trained themselves to ignore quantum intelligence in favor of collective thinking. Dr. Gerd Gigerenzer, director of the Center for Adaptive Behavior and Cognition at the Max Planck Institute, spent decades studying what he calls fast and frugal heuristics, the unconscious mental shortcuts that often outperform complex analytical processes. His research showed that in many situations, people who trusted their initial instincts made better decisions than those who spent extensive time analyzing options. But there's a crucial distinction. Not all quick judgments are quantum intuition. Some are just reactive patterns based on fear, conditioning, or wishful thinking. Learning to distinguish between genuine inner guidance and mental noise is the key to developing reliable quantum intuition. Genuine quantum intuition has specific characteristics. It feels neutral, not emotionally charged with excitement or anxiety. It arrives suddenly and completely, without gradual build-up. It often suggests actions that don't make logical sense, but feel unquestionably right. And it comes with a quiet certainty that doesn't need external validation. Mental noise, by contrast, feels urgent and emotionally loaded. It builds gradually through thinking and analysis. It usually reinforces existing beliefs or desires, and it seeks constant confirmation from others. The difference is subtle but crucial. Quantum guidance emerges from stillness. Mental noise emerges from activity. Learning to recognize this distinction is like learning to distinguish between the sound of wind and the sound of traffic. Once you know what to listen for, it becomes obvious. But even when people recognize genuine intuitive guidance, they often struggle to act on it. Why? Because quantum intelligence frequently suggests paths that challenge conventional wisdom, social expectations, or logical planning. Your inner guidance might whisper, "Don't take that job," even though it looks perfect on paper. Trust that person, even though they don't have impressive credentials. Move to that city, even though you have no logical reason to relocate. These quantum downloads often feel like instructions from a future version of yourself who can see outcomes you can't yet perceive. But acting on them requires tremendous faith in an intelligence that operates beyond the reach of analytical thinking. This is where most people falter. They receive clear inner guidance, but then subject it to committee review by their analytical mind, seeking logical reasons to justify intuitive knowing. By the time they've found enough reasons to act, the moment of quantum clarity has often passed, replaced by mental confusion and doubt. The breakthrough comes when you realize that quantum intelligence doesn't need your analytical mind's permission to be valid. It operates on principles that transcend linear logic. Trying to understand it intellectually is like trying to analyze the beauty of a sunset. The analysis might be interesting, but it misses the point entirely. Instead of analyzing your intuitive guidance, you learn to feel into it. Does this knowing resonate in your body with a quality of truth? Does it feel aligned with your deepest values and highest potential? Does it suggest movement in a direction that, even if scary, feels somehow right? These are the questions that matter when working with quantum intuition. Not, "Can I prove this?" or "What will people think?" But does this guidance ring true in the depths of my being? As you begin to trust and act on these deeper knowings, something remarkable happens. Your inner guidance system strengthens. The signals become clearer, more frequent, more reliable. You develop what mystics call witness consciousness, the ability to observe your thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them, creating space for quantum wisdom to emerge. This isn't about becoming impulsive or abandoning discernment. It's about expanding your definition of intelligence to include forms of knowing that don't require thinking. It's about developing fluency in the language of consciousness itself. And once you become fluent in this language, decision-making transforms from agonizing analysis to effortless alignment. You don't agonize over choices because your inner compass points clearly toward actions that serve your highest evolution and deepest fulfillment. Now comes the practical question. How do you develop this quantum intuitive capacity? How do you strengthen your ability to receive and trust inner guidance? How do you clear the interference patterns that block access to your deeper intelligence? The answer isn't found in more thinking or analysis. It's found in practices that quiet the mental noise and attune your consciousness to subtler frequencies of information. Step 1. Cultivate inner stillness. Quantum guidance emerges from silence, not from mental activity. This means developing a regular practice of inner stillness meditation, breath work, contemplative prayer, or simply sitting quietly without agenda. The specific technique matters less than the consistency. During these moments of stillness, you're not trying to receive guidance or solve problems. You're simply creating space for your consciousness to settle into its natural state of clarity. Think of it as tuning an instrument. You need to find the correct frequency before you can play music. Most people's minds are so habitually active that they mistake mental noise for inner guidance. True quantum intuition only becomes apparent when the background static of constant thinking begins to quiet. Step 2. Develop somatic awareness. Your body is your quantum antenna. Intuitive guidance almost always includes physical sensations, a lightness in your chest when something is right, a heaviness in your stomach when something feels off, a tingling sensation when you encounter significant information. Learn to scan your body regularly throughout the day. Notice how different thoughts, people, and situations affect your physical state. Your nervous system is constantly processing quantum information and translating it into bodily sensations. Most people are too busy thinking to notice these subtle signals. Practice making small decisions based purely on how options feel in your body. Which restaurant feels expansive? Which route home feels flowing? Which email response feels authentic? Start small and build your confidence in somatic intelligence. Step 3. Test and calibrate. Like any guidance system, quantum intuition becomes more reliable with use and feedback. Start keeping a record of your intuitive impressions and their outcomes. Notice patterns. What does accurate guidance feel like in your body? How is it different from wishful thinking or fear-based reactions? Over time, you'll develop the ability to distinguish between different types of inner signals. Genuine quantum guidance has a distinctive quality, neutral, complete, unshakable, that becomes recognizable with practice. Step 4. Act despite uncertainty. This is often the hardest step. Quantum guidance rarely comes with logical explanations or guaranteed outcomes. It simply points toward actions that align with your highest potential, trusting that the path will unfold as you walk it. Learning to act on inner guidance despite uncertainty is like developing a muscle. Start with low-stakes decisions and gradually work up to more significant choices. Each time you honor your inner knowing, especially when it proves accurate, you strengthen your capacity to trust this deeper intelligence. Step 5. Release the need to be right. Paradoxically, the more attached you are to your intuitive impressions being correct, the more likely you are to distort them with wishful thinking or anxiety. Quantum guidance works best when you hold it lightly, acting on it without clinging to specific outcomes. This doesn't mean being careless or impulsive. It means trusting that your deeper intelligence is always guiding you toward your highest evolution, even when the immediate results don't match your expectations. The goal isn't to become psychic or to predict the future with perfect accuracy. The goal is to develop such intimate familiarity with your inner guidance system that you naturally make choices aligned with your deepest wisdom and highest potential. As this capacity develops, life begins to flow with less friction and more synchronicity. Opportunities appear at the perfect moment. The right people show up when needed. Problems resolve in unexpected ways. Not because you're controlling outcomes, but because you're aligning with the intelligence that orchestrates them. This is the promise of quantum intuition. Not supernatural powers, but natural alignment with the deepest currents of wisdom that flow through consciousness itself. And the more people who develop this capacity, the more collective human intelligence evolves beyond the limitations of purely analytical thinking. The most common question people ask about developing quantum intuition is, how do I know if it's really inner guidance or just my imagination? This doubt is understandable, but it reveals a fundamental misunderstanding about how quantum intelligence operates. Imagination and intuition aren't opposites. They're different expressions of the same quantum field of consciousness. The images, feelings, and knowings that arise in your awareness are all valid information from your deeper intelligence. The key isn't to dismiss imagination, but to develop discernment about which inner signals serve your highest evolution. Dr. Rupert Sheldrake, a biologist who spent decades studying consciousness phenomena, proposes that all minds exist within what he calls morphic fields, invisible information networks that connect all living systems. Your individual consciousness isn't isolated. It's part of a vast web of intelligence that includes personal, collective, and cosmic levels of knowing. When you tune into quantum guidance, you're not just accessing your personal wisdom, you're tapping into this larger field of intelligence. This is why intuitive insights often feel like they come from beyond your individual mind, carrying information and perspectives you didn't consciously possess. Ancient traditions understood this connection. Indigenous shamans speak of listening to the spirits of the land before making important decisions. Hindu philosophy describes accessing Akashic records, universal information fields containing all knowledge. Buddhist teachings point to Buddha nature, the innate wisdom that exists within all consciousness. These weren't primitive superstitions. They were sophisticated technologies for accessing non-local intelligence through consciousness itself. Modern quantum physics is beginning to provide scientific frameworks for understanding these ancient wisdoms. The practical implications are profound. If your consciousness can access information beyond your personal experience, then developing quantum intuition becomes less about trusting yourself and more about trusting the intelligence that flows through you. This shift in perspective removes much of the performance pressure that blocks intuitive development. You're not trying to become psychic or develop supernatural powers. You're simply learning to recognize and collaborate with the intelligence that's already flowing through your awareness. But this collaboration requires humility. Quantum intelligence doesn't serve your ego's agenda. It serves your soul's evolution. Sometimes it guides you toward challenges that strengthen your character. Sometimes it leads you away from opportunities that would limit your growth. Sometimes it asks you to release attachments that no longer serve your highest development. This is why many people resist developing deeper intuitive capacity, not because they can't access it, but because they don't want to live according to wisdom that transcends their personal preferences and fears. True quantum guidance often asks you to grow beyond your current limitations. It invites you toward versions of yourself that you can't yet imagine. It suggests possibilities that your analytical mind considers impossible. It challenges you to live from trust rather than control. But for those willing to accept this invitation, quantum intuition becomes a pathway to unprecedented creativity, fulfillment, and contribution. You begin to live from the leading edge of your potential, rather than the trailing edge of your past. Decisions become easier because you're no longer trying to figure out the right choice from limited information. Instead, you're aligning with an intelligence that sees the larger patterns and purposes that your individual perspective cannot perceive. Relationships become more authentic because you're responding to people from genuine knowing rather than social conditioning or emotional reactivity. You can sense what wants to emerge in each interaction, contributing to outcomes that serve everyone's highest good. Creative projects flow more naturally because you're collaborating with the same intelligence that creates galaxies and grows forests. You become a conscious participant in evolution itself, contributing your unique gifts to the larger symphony of emerging possibilities. This isn't fantasy or wishful thinking. It's the natural result of aligning your individual consciousness with the quantum field of intelligence that underlies all manifestation. And it's available to anyone willing to develop the inner stillness, somatic awareness, and trust necessary to collaborate with this deeper wisdom. The choice isn't whether you have access to quantum intelligence, you do. The choice is whether you'll develop the capacity to recognize it, trust it, and allow it to guide your life toward its highest expression. As we near the end of this exploration, it's important to address the most significant obstacle to developing quantum intuition: the fear of being wrong. This fear keeps more people trapped in analytical paralysis than any lack of intuitive capacity. But here's what fear misses. Quantum guidance isn't about predicting specific outcomes. It's about aligning with the flow of evolution itself. Sometimes this flow takes you through experiences that challenge your expectations, but develop your character. Sometimes it leads you toward apparent failures that redirect you toward greater opportunities. The question isn't whether following your inner guidance will guarantee success in conventional terms. The question is whether you're willing to trust an intelligence that sees beyond conventional definitions of success toward your deepest fulfillment and contribution. Every person who has made a significant impact on human development, artists, inventors, leaders, healers, has learned to follow inner guidance despite external resistance and uncertainty. They've discovered that quantum intelligence, while mysterious in its methods, is ultimately trustworthy in its direction. This trust isn't blind faith. It's informed confidence based on experience. As you begin to act on inner guidance and witness the results, you develop practical evidence of its reliability. You start to recognize the difference between fear-based reactions and wisdom-based responses. You notice that decisions made from quantum guidance, even when challenging, tend to strengthen your character and expand your capacity. Decisions made from fear or external pressure, even when seemingly safer, often leave you feeling depleted and disconnected from your authentic self. Over time, this experiential evidence builds unshakable confidence in your inner compass. You no longer need external validation for internal knowing. You no longer seek consensus for guidance that emerges from a deeper source than collective thinking. This doesn't mean you become isolated or arrogant. Instead, you become more genuinely connected to your own authentic nature, to other people's authentic nature, and to the larger intelligence that connects all consciousness. You discover that trusting your inner guidance actually enhances your ability to serve and collaborate effectively. The ultimate promise of quantum intuition isn't personal advantage, it's conscious participation in the evolution of human consciousness itself. As more people learn to access and trust their deeper intelligence, our collective capacity for wisdom, creativity, and problem-solving expands exponentially. The challenges facing humanity, environmental destruction, social inequality, technological disruption, require solutions that transcend purely analytical thinking. They require the kind of breakthrough insights that emerge when human consciousness connects with quantum intelligence. Your development of intuitive capacity isn't just personal growth, it's a contribution to our species' evolution. Every time you choose trust over fear, wisdom over conditioning, authentic expression over social conformity, you strengthen the morphic field of human possibility. This is the deeper calling of quantum intuition, not just to improve your individual life, but to participate consciously in the emergence of a more wise, creative, and compassionate human civilization. If you've read this far, you already sense this calling. Something within you recognizes the truth of what we've explored together. Your own quantum intelligence is confirming that this path of development serves not only your individual evolution, but the evolution of consciousness itself. The question now is simple. Are you ready to trust it? If you're prepared to begin developing your quantum intuitive capacity to learn the practical skills of accessing and interpreting inner guidance, and to contribute your unique gifts to the larger symphony of human evolution, I've created a comprehensive system for you. Quantum Intuition Mastery isn't just a training program. It's a complete immersion in the art and science of consciousness-based decision-making. You'll learn the specific practices that clear mental noise and amplify inner guidance. You'll develop somatic awareness that translates quantum information into practical insights. You'll gain the confidence to act on wisdom that transcends analytical thinking. Most importantly, you'll join a community of people who are committed to living from their deepest intelligence and contributing to the emergence of a more conscious world. The link is below. But before you click it, take a moment to feel into this decision. Notice what happens in your body as you consider taking this step. Does it feel expansive, exciting, quietly certain? That sensation, that's your quantum guidance speaking. Trust it. Act on it. Your inner compass is already pointing toward your next evolutionary step. Remember, you don't need more information to make this choice. You need more trust in the intelligence that already knows what serves your highest development. The quantum field is always responding to your deepest intentions. Your willingness to develop conscious access to this field isn't just personal transformation, it's planetary service. I'll see you on the other side of this decision, where quantum guidance becomes your most trusted advisor and authentic expression becomes your greatest contribution to our evolving world. The universe is always whispering. The question is, are you ready to listen?